My name is Ishola Kayode, and I'm the team lead of KidsTech Africa. So we are so excited to have you. Can you hear me, Mr. Gaba?
Sorry, your voice is breaking. Can you maybe?
Okay, can you hear me?
Your voice is slightly breaking.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Gaba, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, can you hear now, everyone? Okay, it's clear now. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's evening here in Nigeria. This is 5:03 on West African time. We are so excited to have everybody on board. My name is Ishola Kayode. I'm the strategy lead of KidsTech Africa, and we are here in this virtual the webinar to be able to host our keynote speaker, Mr. Gaba. You know, KidsTech Africa is an hands-on coding program and technology program that helps young people to get their footing in the world of technology. And we've been doing this since about 2-3 years now. We started in 2019. And the goal here is just to help young people, to bring young people into the world of technology. And our guest today, Mr. Vinay Gaba, has been a very distinguished personality. You know, he has worked in different top-notch tech companies. We're talking about Snapchat, we're talking about Jetpack, and a host of others. So he's here to give us insights, to share insights with us about how we can really develop the opportunities, how to prepare young people, particularly the Gen Zs, for the opportunities in technology. So that will be our team. So after this introduction, I would like to really bring on board our strategic consultant, Mrs. The strategic consultant will be coming on board to really give an insight into what Gen Z and what we need to look, what Gen Zers are and the opportunities that lies for them. So before we now go back to Mr. Vinay Gaba. So Mr. Vinay Gaba, please kindly welcome every one of us. Mr. Vinay Gaba is joining us from the US. It's 9 a.m. if I'm correct, there with you.
That is correct. So I live in San Francisco, and I'm very honored to be here. So thank you so much for having me. I always love talking to more people, making more friends, and that's the idea. We're just here to have an intimate conversation. All questions are allowed, and I'm hoping that it can be interactive. Like this isn't going anywhere. I want to answer as many questions as you all have. Don't have any slide decks or any presentations that I want to bore you all with. Just want to have a nice human to human conversation and take it from there. So I think Ishola already gave my background, but I want to quickly touch on it for people who might not be aware. So I work as an engineer at a company called Airbnb. By the way, everything I say during this conversation is only my views. They don't represent the views of my employer. Just want to put it out there. These are all my personal views. So I work at a company called Airbnb. Hopefully, some of you are familiar with it. Before Airbnb, I've worked at companies like Snapchat and Spotify and Deloitte. I've been writing code for about 10 years now. And it has been life-changing in a lot of ways. So I'll roll back to how it all first started. For me, I did not enjoy writing code when I first started. And I think a lot of people face that. A lot of people face a lot of barriers when they're trying to break into tech or, start learning to code. For me, it was during engineering school. I stumbled into engineering school somehow. and it was by chance. Like I did not plan it or anything. And also like it's fairly competitive based on where I come from. So I grew up in India, Mumbai in India. And it just so happened that I ended up in engineering school. In spite of being in engineering school, I did not enjoy coding as much. And part of the reason was that the curriculum that we were being taught, it wasn't practical. Like they focused on book knowledge and knowledge that wasn't doing anything that I could build in reality. And that was my problem, part of the reason why I didn't enjoy it as much. It so happened that due to some luck event, I would say, in order to save time, I somehow made an app, and it was a very, honestly, it was a pretty bad app. And I'll be honest, like it didn't do much. This is way back in 2011 when Android was still new. And the other part is that the reason I chose Android was because I had a Windows phone, and so I could not like for someone to make iOS apps, they need a MacBook device, and I didn't have a MacBook device, nor I could afford a MacBook device. And so I said like, hey, I have this Windows phone, it allows me to make Android apps, it's free to make apps. I'll just make an app that does not talk to the server because I did not want to spend on server costs either. uh, and that's why I made this completely independent app, and I released it on the App Store. So I spent 2 days on the app, like my weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, and I released it. And when you're young, you're stupid, and that's a blessing because I was stupid enough to think that people would pay money for an app that I've built in 2 days. And I just put the app out there, having this confidence that someone might end up paying it. If not, it's fine. And after releasing the app for a week, I did not even remember it. And so the next weekend, I uh, went to the portal and I looked at the app, and I saw that 66 people had downloaded the app. And because it was a paid app, it means that I earned $66 from it. And I was blown away. Like that was more money than my pocket money for the entire month. And I'd barely spent any time doing it. And so I was blown away that like there are people in like tens of countries coming to my app. They're trying to download it. They're giving me money for it. And that is the motivation I needed. Like I tasted like I could taste the power of technology and how it can really change things around you. And you need that spark. That spark was ignited that day. And since then, I've just doubled down on it. And so throughout my career, like the past decade, I've focused on Android development because like the passion that I got when I first experienced it, I've continued it throughout. I've not changed it. And that passion has led me through one, moving countries, putting myself through Ivy League education, and I tried to pay all my fees on my own. I did not want to depend on my parents, and honestly, they could not even afford it. And so I wanted to make sure I don't pressurize them. But the fact that I could build this, one thing led to another. I ended up getting some scholarships, and it all worked out. And the common thread between all these events, like me working for prominent tech companies, like getting a master's that was mostly paid for through scholarships and internships and TAships, which is teaching assistantships, or any of that, the common thread has been Android. So I've always doubled down on this single skill and try to make sure that I can keep getting better. I think someone might be unmuted.
Okay, yeah, I've muted the person. You can continue.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. And so the common thread between all this was that I continue to focus on one skill. I continue to focus on one skill and I double down on that. And I think that's at least in my life, it was key. Hey, so I can see it. Ibrahim, I think you might be unmuted. If you can just mute it, that would really help. Awesome. By the way, hi. Don't worry, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm like, it's an honest mistake, happens with everyone. Uh, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I was talking about how I've doubled down on this one skill, and that's only helped me. And this is something that I also recommend, because often people are faced with all these choices that, like, there are 20 programming languages. Like, what I'll do is I'll spend time on Java and Python and PHP and Perl and Ruby. Uh, that's not necessary to know everything. You just need to know one thing, and if you know that well, there will always be opportunities available for you. And that was one key insight that I was willing to bet on very early on in my career, and that's paid in dividends. uh, Again, that's not to say that you cannot learn everything and be an expert in many things. You 100% can. It's just easier to do things when you focus on only one thing, which has been my experience, at least. The other part is that I've always thought of being able to code as a superpower. uh, the fact that you can give life to your ideas, not a lot of people in the world can do that. Like, I know people who are further along in their careers, and as you grow older, I think it's harder to mold yourself because you're used to certain things and you're used to certain comforts. Again, like, I'm not trying to generalize it, but I think that kids are in that unique situation, or people who are young in general are in a unique situation where you can easily learn things and you are motivated to learn things and you're excited about things faster. And so that is the right age to start coding. I feel that I was also late when it came to coding. Like, I was in engineering school. That's when I actually started learning how to code. I wish I did things earlier. And this is the unique opportunity that Gen Z and people who are younger have. And there are a few reasons for that. The first one is that mistakes aren't costly. Even if you make a mistake, so let's say that you try to make an app, you release it, no one downloads it, it's fine. You've lost nothing. You've not spent any money to do it. Uh, the first idea didn't work, that's fine. The second probably will, because time is on your side. And so you want to make sure that you have this unique leverage, and everything in your career is about leverage. Like, even when you go for a job, what you're paid depends on the amount of leverage you have. And if it's a unique skill, that means you have more leverage. Similarly, as a kid, you have leverage because you have time on your side and you have people who are willing to take chances on you. If you're young and you're motivated, people are willing to mentor you. Like, they love it. Like, that's part of the reason why I am here. Like, the only thing I'm hoping to get is that, at least if I can convince at least one kid to start coding, in my eyes, that'll be a win, like a personal win for me. That I could convince someone to start learning to code and go build that app or website or whatever they want to build. And so people will take a chance on you. Your mistakes aren't as costly. Time is on your side. And the worst thing that happens is that you start thinking about things in a more logical and a more problem solving way. Because that's what we do with code. We're trying to solve problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. And there are multiple examples of this, where every website that you to solve a problem that was around them. And not only did they solve the problem for themselves, they solved the problem for the entire continent. They solved the problem for the entire world. Like, take Airbnb into account, Snapchat, Facebook, name any app that you use on a daily basis, and that's a common theme. And you have the opportunity to do that once you have the ability to code. For people who don't know how to code, what they often have to do is figure out ways to get help. And that is you adding a barrier to entry, right? Like, let's say that I have this idea of building an app that reminds me to drink water every day. If I know how to code, I can spend the weekend, make this app, release it, get my friends to use it. And even if not, I can use it for my own productivity. I can use it to make my and my family's life better. And even that is a win, right? You're able to improve your life by using software. And you're not dependent on someone else. If you don't know how to code, you'll either rely on something that already exists in the market. And this is a very important line, right? Who has the power to create? God does, right? At least that's what religious people think. Like, God has the power to create. I feel that software gives you the same power, the ability to create. And like I'm maybe exaggerating a bit slightly. Like I'm not saying that you become God if you can code. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying that it's a blessing to have the power to create, and not a lot of people do. And you can move mountains by just knowing how to do that. So imagine this man went on moon in the 70s or 60s. I don't even remember which year it was, with very minimal compute power, with non-existent RAMs, and yet we could reach, like human race could reach the moon. With the amount of resources that are available to us, that's part of the reason why we are even thinking about reaching Mars now. By the time like more time passes, maybe like 30, 40 years, we'll be thinking about Neptune, maybe. I don't know. But that's all like code, right? Like code is powering all those endeavors that human have, and all the motivations that you might have. It's all possible because we have the power to create. Uh, I think this is generally what I wanted to briefly touch on, and I'm happy to answer any topics that this group is more interested in talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Vinay. It's really been very insightful. So, in a nutshell, it's you didn't really start coding. Like it wasn't something like you really thought you were going to do, like as you are now. No, when you were talking about your background, you said you developed like an app. You said by your rating, then a poor app. Then when Android was still in its early days, and you were able to
Yes.
catch. You saw that about 60% have downloaded the app. Now, at that moment, how did you exactly feel? Like, is that the thing that's changing? Is that the moment that really transformed your perspective about going into coding?
So I think that was probably the most defining moment for me, and that is why I remember the number, which is 66. It's a 10-year-old story. I wouldn't remember it like that if it didn't have a profound impact on me. So it certainly did, and not only did it impact me, it impacted, right? Like I would change that my parents get the things that I always hoped I would give them. These are things that I couldn't have done if I didn't end up in this. Maybe somehow I could have ended up differently, but I feel that I really accelerated my career by being in tech, because it's a really good time to be a software engineer and to be in tech in general. And everyone who has the opportunity to do so, I would always recommend that they know how to build things. Uh, I think it's also very exciting, right? Like the fact that you can build whatever you want, like there are no boundaries available. And also the amount of resources available these days, right? Like there are programs like KidsTech Africa, for example. But not only that, like there are also a lot of free resources available. And so you should choose whatever works best for you. Like I would never recommend you stretching yourself and taking a loan to do these programs. And again, like I'm being super transparent and honest. Uh, try things that are available online, and if you feel that it's not working out for you, come to these programs and use them, because like you always need help, right? Sometimes for me, I also feel that if I had some role models and some help, I would have probably started doing it earlier. Unfortunately, the times were different back then. Like I'm talking like 15 years earlier. Like we did not have tech boot camps that existed, right? I did not even have a computer in my home until I was much older. And so the fact that everyone here has access to a smartphone, which is honestly as good as a computer these days, means that you have all the tools available to become an engineer already. You have the tools available to learn how to code. So you're already one step along the way. Like your parents have already ensured that you all have the tools and the means available to break into a career. The only thing remaining is motivation. And by attending similar that it's needed to jump in and start building something and learning how to code, and just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to fail. It's completely fine to fail. All of us fail, and that's fine. There's nothing for you to lose here. You can only gain from this. And even if you don't see it immediately, in hindsight, you will realize that you gained a lot by just investing the time to learn. Uh, it might not be clear immediately, but eventually it will be clear.
Okay, that's impressive. So I want to bring Mrs. Mujoyin Olawi, who is our senior consultant, so that she's going to bring an insight into what we're discussing, especially from the parents' perspective. There has been this debate about getting kids to code, like without kids coding, without parent supervision and all of that. So we want her to share insight a little bit about that, so that we also get your reaction concerning that. Okay, so Mujuni. We can't hear you.
Think you might be muted.
Okay, she's unmuted already, but she can't be heard. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay, while she's still trying to join the webinar, I don't know, I think maybe there's a glitch from her end. What's your reaction? What do you think concerning parents and coding for kids?
So I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a parent yet. And so I feel that I don't even have the insights to understand the parent's perspective. And it'll be wrong for me to have an opinion about something that I've not even experienced. And so that's my early impression, that I am fearful in answering this because I don't know, like I'm not a parent. And so I don't know what the concerns of the parents are when it comes to coding. So like that's an important thing that I should say up front. Having said that, I think as long as people are using the ability to code for constructive things, I think parents should encourage their kids to do it, and they should be heavily involved in their in the learning process of the kids. And as long as you know what your kid is doing, I think it should be completely fine and reasonable for them to be learning how to code, because it's not only like software, right? Like writing, like having the ability to code also triggers the logical and the problem solving part of your brain. Like that's a skill that I think is certainly important for kids to have. Like even their abilities are complementary skills, and it certainly helps your kid to have that bend of mind once they start learning how to code. And so for parents who are actually concerned about this, I think I would highly recommend that you get involved more and understand what we can hear you now.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
I'm sorry. Do you want to go on?
No, I think I said what I had to. Please go on.
Say, okay, I apologize, everyone. It's mostly because, I'm still not so much a part of this generation yet. I missed out some things on my, on the settings, and I think that's why I was a bit off. So I just want to welcome everybody. Vinay, we're so excited to have you here, because we know that, the parents seeing you, the kids seeing you, it's a big motivation for everybody. I really can't mention everybody's name, but Jimmy, I think I can see you. We haven't really spoken, but it's nice seeing you here. Coyote, thank you, Mr. Dumoye. Thanks for putting this together. I'm just here to, talk, just stir up, a conversation about, the Generation Z and why why technology is so important for them, right now as a tool for their future. As a parent here in Africa, I know Vinay said things like, you can't really answer because you're not a parent yet. That's one huge part of it. You're not a parent yet. And then more importantly, you're not a parent in Africa, because the Generation Z, from, my research and what I've seen on the internet, it's the people from, say, mid 1990s that were born mid 1990s to like mid 2010s. So that would be from like roughly 95 to like 2015. And so that makes them maybe like from like age 6 to maybe like 24, that sort of thing. So, many of them, like my son was born, in like 2010, 2009, thereabouts. And I remember that it was maybe like 2 or 3 years before then that I came in contact with the first Apple phone. So he was literally born into that kind of technology. He never interfaced with the Nokia that we knew and things like that. I didn't have a lot of opportunity with the internet. I think I got into Facebook in my 500 level. That's my 5th year in school as an engineering student. But he was literally born into this. So they're like digital natives. The challenge that we now have as African parents is that we tend to focus more on the cons, the problem that might come with technology, mostly because we're not very informed about, the big advantages that come with technology. And Vinay said something that I really picked up. You talked about, when you were schooling, how it was more about, studying academics. As in you weren't really brought into, the life application of things and all of that. And Africa tends to be, we tend towards that kind of thing, a lot of theory and academics. So it's very difficult to really see how this might be useful. And, what I've explained to a lot of parents is that, you need to equip your children for their future. Many of us, tend to have these discussions, people in my generation, about how we may not have been properly equipped for our future, that we're living right now. I think back at the opportunities that I might have had if my parents were better informed about some things. But, just because, they didn't know some things, for them, going to school was just that structured, science, and, you want to be an engineer and you want to be a doctor. That was more what it was. And, I might have lost out on some opportunities as I grew up. But right now, the world, it's bigger out there. And with the use of technology, the world is way bigger. As in, I say to my friends sometimes that, when you're so worried about your children's friends and, you're trying to have this kind of stifling relationship with them, how about the friends that come into your house that you don't even know? The friends that come in through Facebook, they come in through, gaming apps and things like that. There are people that actually interact with your children. But because, it's on social media, you're not even aware. So why not you get involved and get, know more about the options that your children have so that you can, walk with them on this journey. I don't know how much easier it would have been for you, Vinay, if your parents knew a bit more and maybe they were able to help you with some of these choices. I think it might have been a bit more interesting or maybe a bit easier, right? It might have made your journey slightly easier. Am I right? So, those are things that I think of. Yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to briefly come in on something that you just mentioned. So I've thought about this a bit.
Yeah.
Like, would I have would anything be different if I had more role models around me? 100%. Like, would anything be different if my parents were super aware of everything and they were shielding me from some of those things? I think
Maybe not.
Maybe not. And the reason I say maybe not is only because I was more hungry for achieving more, because I felt I didn't have enough. And I'm just talking this is not a general statement at all, because I've seen the complete opposite example in the same family. Okay. And so it depends on the individual, but I feel that part of the hunger and the fire I had was because I didn't have what I wanted. And that motivated me.
It fed your ambition. I completely get that. And I was going to get to that because, where that part comes out is how we project our fears of technology on our children. We project that fear, all the insecurities that we brought from while we're growing up, we project it on them. Like, are you ready? Are you sure? Of predators and things like that. So the reason why it will be okay to get a bit more informed is just so that we can answer the questions about our own fears. Like, right now I'm a lot more comfortable because, I've had that discussion with my son. So there's a lot of trust about, where he goes, because he can actually navigate the internet on himself, with the parental thing on. And so we try to do that just to gauge, what he can do and things like that, just to be able to get more comfortable, in that community, to be able to use that network. And another thing that I'd like to say is that, for parents, most parents in Africa, when they hear coding, it's mostly games, as in it's equal to games. And I found that it might be true for the kids, because I'm thinking maybe your first app, I don't know what kind of app it was, but a lot of children tend to want to build games, and they just want games and things like that. And the parents are wondering, what place does this have in your future? But it's much more than about games. There is so much. There's a whole world of, opportunities. There's a whole world of opportunities out there that the children will have access to through coding. That, if the parents kept thinking, okay, it's your schoolwork, you better face your schoolwork, go into your chemistry and, just your English and your maths, they might miss out on it. So the whole point of something like KidsTech Africa is to make sure that, while you're studying your maths and your physics and your chemistry, you are able to solve real life problems that we still have on our continent. And to make sure that, in future, we're talking, in many of them are going to get into the job market in let's say 6 years. And, if they don't know so much about technology, that could actually reduce their chances of employment in some places. Those are our thoughts. And, it might actually still restrict their chances of being able to function very well in the global community. So, exposing them to this is a good opportunity to prepare them for what the future really is. Where, in the future, you really can't take out technology, as in everything, all problems can be solved. So that's one part of it, equipping them. Another part of it is, solving problems in Africa. We, India and Africa are very similar. I'm assuming you're from India. I'm sorry.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. And it's funny that you said that. It's funny you said that. Like parents think it's video games, because that was exactly my experience too. Like my parents, when I was I had to fight to get a computer. Like I remember arguing with my parents that no, I need a computer, and for them it's like, oh, he needs a video game. Like looking back, obviously they realize how important just getting me that. Like my school had a computer and I was very interested in it, but I didn't have it at home. And so I think what you also bring up is very interesting. So there are two aspects to this. One is just having access to the internet, which I think is the gray area where things can be good and things can be very bad. And that's part of the reason why parents are fearful, and they are justified to have that fear, because the internet is a scary place. Let's be real, like entering the deep dark web, right? Like you don't know what happens, like people can access kids and all of that. So that 100% is risky, and I will agree with that. Like there's no denying that. But the other part to this is purely learning code. And I feel that we just group computer as one thing, like, oh, internet, all the bad things, social media, they're one thing. And I think it's also important to realize that the ability to code and the ability to access internet and social media, like they're two completely different choices. And there are tools in place that allow you to restrict that as a parent. Again, like take it with a grain of salt, because I'm not a parent. I do not understand all the aspects, and I have to preface this because I'll be doing a disservice if I did not acknowledge that. as far as learning how to code goes, like you can have like well-contained environments like Scratch or like any other tool really. Like and I'm sure like KidsTech Africa also will probably be able to help you there because it's a more contained environment where like kids have limited access, hopefully at least. And those things certainly help. And dividing them and treating them separately is important because that's where some of the stigma comes from. Like social media, not only for kids, it's bad even for adults, like 100%, right? And we see those conversations every day where like companies like Apple are now adding features that limit how much you use some of the apps. Like you see wellness features now in apps like Instagram that tells you that, hey, you've been browsing for 30 minutes, go home, do something else. It doesn't say that directly, but something along those lines. And so I think having that distinction is super important.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Vinay. Yeah, what you've said is completely, yeah,
So
it's completely right. Thank
I
you.
want to chip that in. Talking about kids and control over what they do as Gen Zs, of course, is one of those fears that parents do have. And I'm sure that we can't say just because you don't want people to wonder that they shouldn't work. We have to be able to guide kids, and that's what we've been doing at KidsTech Africa. I also want Mr. Jimmy Diago. Coincidentally, Mr. Jimmy Diago is one of our advisory board members. Before the end of this particular webinar, we'll be unveiling our advisory board members. So we want Mr. Jimmy Diago to weigh in as well before we bring one or two of our kids to engage and give insights about their experience in coding since they've really started, like some of the participants of the KidsTech Africa program. So next will be Mr. Friday Wokolo and Mrs. Funmi Adefila Osebo.
Hi, everyone. From this side, I think it's also evening there in Nigeria already.
Yes, it's evening, yeah.
Except in the US with Vinay Gaba.
Okay, right.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a pleasure being part of this webinar section with KidsTech Africa. I had to, I just had to time for this event. I want to listen to the community. I think I'm very familiar with what Airbnb does in the tech space, and I'm also we're going to reach out to them for a partnership and collaboration. Okay, fine. My view about the kids coding, based on what Mrs. Olawi, if I'm correct, we from the developing part of the world. When I said developing part, in fourth world like Africa, for example, begin to think outside the box. Look, the situation we have in this world today is no longer what it used to be in the 70s, 60s, when our forefathers and our mothers and our parents used to, you understand? So everything has changed in the whole world. So it's high time we begin to prepare ourselves. And when I mean preparing ourselves, doesn't mean we need to just position the kids alone. We as parents, I'm a father of 3 kids. My first daughter is 13 years old. I'm sure she's also part of this webinar section. Her name is Shemilore. And, it's high time we begin to position them in the proper direction, prepare them for the future. And when I mean the future actually is now. The tech actually started and is already disrupting the entire space. I'm also part of the system already because I don't want to be left behind. Tomorrow, I don't want to stand somewhere, even if you have something to be proud of, but there will still be some form of disadvantages. And this is why I think I will encourage all parents, forget about the fear of what would the children do online, on the internet, what would they do with coding. Coding is for everyone. Parents, the kids needs to be part of the future. How do you advise a kid on how to utilize coding? or technology to their own advantage when you don't have the basic knowledge of what this technology is all about. So it's somehow for me, I'm a blockchain enthusiast. I'm also building a couple of solutions with my team in the space. We are creating a couple of solutions that will be busy building with a couple of our team members. Also, we have a couple of them from India, especially because we believe so much that whatever solution you want to have in this new world today, you can get from India. And why is India so special? I mean, if you have to talk about the tech leading countries today, you talk about India, you talk about United States. United States actually is losing the grip because 90% of the people working in the United States in the tech space are also Indians, except for the Chinese who are their competitors, or Pakistanis and, from the Soviet Union region. So my view of this new opportunity is, what is we as Africa doing to take advantage of this position? Stating this, do we also encourage our children to be late also in the future? So in my own recommendation, I would rather say all children needs to sit tight now. Parents, not children. Parents needs to sit tight. Look at the advantages of what coding could add up to your children, apart from the regular academic, whatever that we're trying to channel them into. But unfortunately, that will not help them. It will not be enough for them. Whatever you think they can learn from school will not be enough for them to prepare them for the future. If you are not positioning them to take advantage of the coding today, then it means you are going to be taking them on a very long journey. And I don't think this generation want to go about that. Everything we used to fear those days are turning out to be on the advantage today. I could remember some years back, some Islamic clerics. I'm sorry I have to debate in the religion, but I have to use this as a very basic example. Some religion leaders consider internet during the .com, emergence. Some spiritual leaders actually consider it to be an anti-religious element that will take over the world. But today, look at what 20 has taught us during the pandemic. Everywhere globally was shut down. Then the whole world had no other choice than to depend on the internet. If you want to order for food, you have to depend on the internet. Somebody is taking advantage of that space. If you want to go on ride today, Uber has taken advantage of that space. If you want to reach out to friends, Facebook has taken advantage of that space. We as Africans, what are we doing in that area? What are we also telling our kids? Forget about the disadvantage. Yeah, we have to put that into consideration, really. But in my own view, I think we should be ready to help the children to take advantage of this very golden opportunity. And if we do so, every damages, everything that we have done wrong, these kids should be able to help us one way or the other. They are already creating solutions in different space. My kids, Rising is a younger boy of mine, is getting to 10 now. He's also developing a couple of games for himself. And I'm so proud of, seeing him doing that. He has been coding for the past 2 years now, creating solutions. And when I engage him in a couple of conversations, I see him telling me things like I feel like I'm discussing with somebody of my age. So how do you think a kid like that will take, such knowledge to their own disadvantage? They will not do that. They want to create solutions. They want to see the world get better than what it is today. So we just need to help them. And I'm so proud. It's the more reason why I willingly accept to be on board at KidsTech Africa, to be part of them, give my own input, my advice in whichever way that I can guide them through, successful in this project. And I hope that every other parents out there will see this as a very golden opportunity. Let's help ourselves, let's help the kids, let's help Africa, and the world will get better for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jimmy Diagon. It's very, very insightful. Before our next advisory board member talks, I want to also recognize the Mr. Dr. Popola. Dr. Popola is a lecturer at Imperial College London, and he has been so supportive to our course here at KidsTech Africa. So, Doctor, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, I came a bit late. Well, the simple things I'm going to say, whether people like to buy it or not. I've bought into coding for so long now, and I've tried to educate myself. I've got a 14-year-old son who is addicted to games. Seriously, it's like water. He plays games all the time. His results just came out last week, and he was just above average. And you can imagine, I was mad. So this summer, he's traveling with me next week. And this summer, I've told him, I don't want you to be in the front of the game. I want you to be the one in the back of the game, creating the game, finding solution, finding a way in such a way that people playing in front will not be able to defeat you. Because that's what they do. They want to do it so well that they will be the one that get the highest point. I said, throughout the next 4 weeks, you're going to be in the back of this game. You have to create your own game. We have to make shin out of it. See, the money we spend to fly from London to wherever we're going next week, you need to make up that money in the next 4 weeks. So it's really up to it. So I will advise every parent, coding. Let them eat, let them breathe, let them, if they have to smoke it, let them smoke coding. Okay? That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Dr. Kokola. So, Ibrahim, we want to bring Ibrahim on board, one of our the participants of KidsTech Africa. Ibrahim, you can unmute yourself now so that So, what has been your experience? Share your experience with KidsTech Africa and your journey in coding. Okay, Ibrahim, are you unmuted? Okay, you can go ahead now.
Yes, sir. My experience is I've got to the KidsTech Africa. The first time I joined, I saw a lot of people. I was surprised that I saw a lot of. I thought I was only the one. Then after that, I saw a lot of ages, my mates like me. Then I joined them. I even saw one of my friends at our street. Then we saw each other, and my supervisor.
So what are you guys doing? What have you been able to do now? Like a project you've been able to work on and the tracks that you are on. Just tell us about your project, what you've been able to do.
I worked on a computer-based texting app last year, and it was all over the internet. I was so surprised. And this year, and last year also, I dreamed about creating a television app, and my dream is almost coming true.
So you're working on it already? Are you working on it already?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've listened to Mr. Vinay Gaba's story and the importance of coding. So what do you think, like, as a young kid, what are your dreams, your aspirations for coding, like, for this track?
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, what I'm saying is, what do you really want to do, like, in the future, like your goal, like maybe in the next 5 years or thereabout in this sector with coding?
The best software developer in the world.
Okay, you want to be the best software developer in the world. Wow, that's impressive.
Wow.
That's impressive. So, Shemilore, can you join us and tell us, of course, that Mr. Jimmy Gaba have talked about you and what you could do with coding. So we want to really engage you. Like, do you have any projects right now on the App Store or any project maybe on GitHub that you really worked on?
In school, we were actually talking about creating our own apps, and we were going to show them to the entire school during assembly. So I've been watching a lot of videos and tutorials on how to code games.
Okay, that's impressive. So which year did you start? Like, at what age did you like launch, or you joined coding, or you started coding?
I've been in school, we've been doing coding since grade 3.
That's impressive. Okay, grade 3. That's great. So with that, what do you think, like in the next maybe 5 years, what are the things in which you are looking at in that sector?
Pardon me.
Okay, like you really don't want to choose a track or maybe a particular direction through which you like the problem you want to solve with coding.
I know that online there are some times where parents don't feel safe with their children going there. So I want to create like a way that parents can actually feel more comfortable with their child going online onto the internet.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. It's a very impressive thing. So I also have one of our very like brilliant kids for the KidsTech Africa program. Tomilola. Tomilola, please can you unmute yourself and talk about your project, what you've been working on so far.
Okay, so I started the KidsTech program last year when I was 11, and the project I've worked on so far is a game, tic-tac-toe game. That was my first ever project. So I decided to develop the project because personally I'm a game lover. So I like to play games. So I thought it would be nice for me to present a game on my own, one that I could make on my own. And I could be able to say that, yes, I actually developed this game.
Oh, that's impressive. So you're a game lover. I also love games too. Okay. Did Mr. Vinay Gaba talk about the his first project? Is it a game? Did you develop a game first, or do you have maybe games in your portfolio as part of the stuff you've really worked on?
I've certainly dabbled with games, and I think for a lot of kids, including me, like our first experience with technology was for a game. Like I remember, like we used to have these Nintendo cassettes that I would wait the entire year so that in summer my parents would get me that one cassette that I could spend the entire summer playing. And so for anyone in tech, like I think all of them secretly have that aspiration of being able to make games. And I've also made games in the past. I'm not working on one currently, but maybe I'll do that again at some point. Uh, and people don't realize the value that games actually bring. One, like, and I'm talking in general. Like I remember reading about someone talking about how they were in the games industry, like they are adults, like not just kids. And they were like, I did not realize the impact of my work because some game that they had built was helping someone who was suffering from cancer and going through chemotherapy. And so they were struggling, but that game was that outlet where they could break free and like relax and unwind. Now, when you're making games, you don't realize that you're actually impacting someone's life like that. And when I read that story, like that was also the first time when I was like, okay, like it's not just a game. Like for some people, like it is their only way to bring some joy in their life. And so I feel that there are some negative connotations associated with, oh, it's just a game. I think there are positive ends to games too. Like you can make a game that teaches people how to learn English or math or science. Like those are games too. Like just shooting is not games, right? Which I feel that in our brains, like we associate like violence with games. That's not true. Like you can do a lot of productive things via games, and that's the unique opportunity that is presented in front of us. I also want to highlight one thing that so Semilore, and hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I loved her answer, and the reason I loved her answer was that during this conversation we realized there's a problem. Like parents are not comfortable in people using technology, and she made that her goal already within this conversation. And so what she did was she pattern matched, she identified an opportunity, and she's like, okay, you know what, I should build this next. This is exactly the kind of people we need, right? Like this is why kids need to learn how to code. The reason she can say that I want to solve this problem next is because she has the ability to code. So she can identify this problem and start working on a solution already. And as parents, you probably want to enable your kids to be in a similar position where they can be like, hey, I just found this problem. Let me spend the weekend and fix it for y'all. That's probably the last thing that I want to add here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. So I want to bring Mr. The KidsTech Africa, one of the board advisory board members, Mr. Friday Nwokolo, to say a thing or two, and Mrs. Adefila. Mrs. Adefila, Mr. Friday Nwokolo, please, can you unmute yourself and say one or two things?
Okay, yeah, it's actually good evening from here, and I want to say thank you to KidsTech Africa for making this happen. I would say this is the second time I'm joining this kind of event, virtually. I want to thank all those who made this possible, including our guest speaker for today. What do I have to say about technology? Well, the only thing I have to say right now is technology has changed the world beyond what we even thought about a year ago. And I would say that COVID-19 accelerated the whole process for us, especially in this part of the world. I'm thinking that, my thoughts are that without COVID-19, Africa, Nigeria wouldn't have embraced technology as much as we have done, in the last 12 months or so. So bringing in our kids into this, it's the right thing to do. I share Madam's concerns around, the negative effects, consequences that this could have if we do not monitor what our kids do with technology. I sincerely agree with her on that point, on that front. But I also agree with Mr. Idiagbon that, we don't have a choice right now than to let these kids do the things they need to do with technology. And I agree with the doctor around monetizing the whole thing, So our kids should start making money even earlier than we did, earlier than we started. We need to let them understand that they can monetize this, they can use it to do things. So beyond changing the world, they can make some money from it. That's what I think personally. So this is the time for us to push our kids to do things with technology. There's no better time than now. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Friday Nwokolo. Mr. Friday Nwokolo has been very, very supportive for the KidsTech Africa course, and we really want to thank him. He's a member of our advisory board. I want to bring Ricey. Ricey, Jimin, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so tell us about your project and your experience coding. First, your name, then your age.
Yeah, my name is Ricey Media, and I'm 9, currently turning 10. A few years ago, I was playing a game a lot, and I realized that what if I was the person that created that game? So I decided to learn my first coding language, which was Python, and I now currently know 3 coding languages called Python, JavaScript, and C hashtag. I started working on a game on Unity, and it is currently in its beta testing. And I've actually had fundings for that app, so I'm able to afford a multiplayer server currently in its beta test. I'm currently beta testing it, and some people have agreed to help with it. So I have 3 beta testers at this time. It is currently in a work in progress and should be released soon. I've also made a crypto trading bot using the Alpaca Trade API and using the martingale trade method. And I'm currently working on a crypto wallet in a crypto coin that me and my dad are working on.
Wait, Ricey. You've gone into blockchain technology. You mean crypto? Wow. So can you tell me about blockchain technology? Like the little you know about blockchain technology.
Yes, blockchain technology. The blockchain is used to store different blocks, and those blocks can be, and by mining makes calculations on your device, And if you get the correct calculation, you'll be rewarded a block. The current block reward for Bitcoin is 6.5 Bitcoin. So if you mine a block for Bitcoin, you can get around 6.5 Bitcoin. Every 4 years, the block is reduced. The block reward is half. So as of last 2020, Bitcoin had a higher block reward, but it was half to around 6.5. There are many different blockchains as Binance, ERC20, Ethereum, or Tron, which are more and Tron, which some of the blockchains are actually named after very popular coins like Ethereum, with the current price of around 2,000.
Okay, wait. It's okay.
Wait,
It's
wait,
fine.
wait, 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 wait. Kyle, please wait.
This is
Please
serious.
wait. Mr. Diagbon.
I have to manage this guy. I mean,
No, Mr.
I have to
Diagbon.
manage
When
him
you're
myself.
ready to sell this boy on eBay, I want to have
a Wow, rising, thumbs up. I to be honest, like you've really done a lot. Most of these things that you're saying, I am relatively new also in cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Of course, I joined late, but I think perhaps I can learn from you now because you seems to have more insight about it, even more than myself. But you talked about Unity. I'm a game lover too. Back then when I was an undergraduate in the university, I myself with my other team, we worked on the Unity on some Unity project at that time. Of course, we didn't get to launch the game, but just yesterday, I was still discussing with the instructors and our team at KidsTech Africa that, okay, yes, let's build games and let's work on games as the case may be. So the most important thing is just that it's very, very exciting to see that young people are beginning to see the opportunities in coding. And for someone like you, Rising, you've really gotten like you've been on board early on, and that's what we're doing at KidsTech Africa. You can see what Ibrahim and Tomilola have talked about, and this is extremely impressive. I think Mrs. Adefila Hosebo is right here. Please, if you can hear us, she's one of our advisory board members, and so kindly weigh in, Ma, so that we move ahead. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, Ma. You can go ahead, Ma.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so impressed with the last speaker, Mr. Jimmy's son. It's amazing what these kids have the ability to do, and I'm happy KidsTech is trying to harness whatever it is that they can bring on the table. At this point, I think there's a whole lot that KidsTech can do. And I believe Rising, or what's his name, Mr. Jimmy's son, is really going to inspire a lot of the children that will be coming in, even for the coming program that is going on. For me, it's everything is in the right direction. Everything is in the right direction. We need to allow our kids not to be left behind. Yes, there's a downside to the internet or to technology, but it's in our place to be able to let the children know which will be beneficial to them and the one that have negative consequences. Well done, Coyote. Well done, everybody on board. I see a lot happening with KidsTech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. So I want to call the team lead for KidsTech Africa, Mr. Dumoya Ayobami, we have some questions we'll be taking 3 questions. So he's going to read the questions to our guest, and we answer the question before we wrap up the webinar.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening. You can go ahead.
So before I proceed, I would like to appreciate our guest speaker for today and also to appreciate all the participants as well as our advisory board for your impactful contributions so far. So at KidsTech Africa, we say a very big thank you to you. And most especially, Mr. Ricey, I think I have to be your best friend now so that I can be into blockchain technology as well. So I don't want to left behind. So without wasting much of our time, let me just go to the comment section and read out question to our guest speaker for today. So please do justice to it. From Bidemi Pokola, he said, what relevance is the coding to children and the society? That is the first question. Then the second question is, how can parents get involved with this technology movement to be able to guide their children? Then another question I have here again is from Mr. Abdulhakim Olawi. He asks, why appreciating Mr. Vinay Gaba for his insightful presentation? His question is, can someone build his or her coding career on only one programming language? And what advice do you have for those who combine more than one programming languages? I think that is the two questions we have currently. So over to Mr. Vinay.
Does a parent want to answer the first question? I think there are people who are better suited to answer that than I am, and then I can take on the second question.
Kindly go ahead, please.
So I can take on the second question, which is, okay. Can you build?
The second question is, how can parents get involved with technology movement to able to guide their children?
Oh, my bad. So I was talking about the question that was directed to me, which is, can one build their career on only one programming language? And okay, yes. What advice do you have for those who combine more than one programming language? Yes. So my take on this is that you aren't rewarded for knowing the number of languages. You're rewarded for knowing how to code. And so oftentimes, like I also started with just one programming language, which was Java. And that sustained me for a very long period of time, to be honest. But as everything else in the world, change is the only constant. And so there will always be something new, something shiny that comes along. And the fact that you know one language makes it very easy for you to pick up another one. And so when there is a need to do that, sure, go ahead and do it. But if there is no need, don't spend time on learning, because what we are indirectly doing is not spending time on the actual practical stuff, but only spending time on the details. And by doing that, we are adding barriers to entry for ourselves. And part of the reason is that we are probably afraid. So we just spend time in learning. I think what is more important is that you learn and you do something with it. And so the best advice that I've personally self-imposed on myself is that whenever I'm trying to learn something new, I start with a project in mind already. And then I only learn things that are needed to just enable that project. And so if I'm making an app and my app does not require Bluetooth capability, I do not spend any time trying to learn about Bluetooth or any of that. I just focus on the task at hand and only do things that are needed for that. By doing that, you're not confusing yourself. You're making sure that you have a very focused thing that you need to learn in mind, and you immediately put that in action by building it. And I think that's the most important advice that I can give you. You're not being rewarded for the number of languages you know. So if you think that more people will want to hire you because you know 20 languages, oftentimes it does not really matter. Like even when you look at job requirements, they'll have a list of 5 languages and they'll be like, if you know anyone, that's fine. Because ultimately what they're trying to test you on is your ability to think logically, your ability to write logic, irrespective of which language you use. And so don't try to optimize for that. As long as you're writing some coding language, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you so much. I really like the perspective, because there's this thing about coding, especially developers, like the more languages, the merrier. But it's out of place, because now we are going into specialization. most companies, when they want to hire, they want to hire a particular developer to do a certain thing, so not a generalist. So it's extremely important to focus on a particular programming language, especially the one that is relevant, highly relevant. So lastly, I want to bring a kid, Miriam Abdulkadri. Miriam Abdulkadri, if you can hear me, you can just unmute yourself so that you give us your insight. Yeah, Miriam got into coding like about 3-4 months ago, the current cohort that we're doing here in Ilorin on the north central part of Nigeria. So Miriam, what have you been able to learn? What can you do at the moment with coding, and how's been?
My experience in coding is very interesting. When I first joined the whole coding thing, it was a little bit very strange, and since I just began, but since I learned more about the coding and the Python, I got more interested in it. So I'm currently working on a project, and it's a school management system. It helps school to keep data of people that are in the school, teachers, students, and other people that are living there, that are staying in the school. Then it also helps the school with the registration of students, and it also helps the school with the finance and the payment of school fees and all. And my experience at KidsTech Africa has made me very more interested in coding and in technology. And I'm very happy that I'm solving a problem, and I'm finding a solution to a problem that every school maybe have, and most schools have, because they always have problem with keeping data of students and the registration of students. And I hope that this solution can really help schools and change the school management.
Okay, thank you so much, Miriam. So our guest, Mr. Vinay, is of course, is a very busy person. Is a tech lead at Airbnb. Airbnb is the world's biggest apartment letting platform, and this is a company that gets in revenues in billions. So it's a very major company. So it's a very big privilege. It's a very, very big privilege for us at KidsTech Africa. We are extremely happy to bring Mr. Vinay Gaba on board. Just before he signs off, so we want to say his parting words before we do the official unveiling of the member of the advisory board, and we wrap up the webinar. Thank you. You have the floor, Mr. Vinay.
The honor is all mine. Thank you for having me. I got the opportunity to talk to more people, hear different perspectives, and that's what it's all about. If you do have apprehensions, I think the best thing you can do is talk to more people. And by just showing up here, you've already done that. So you're taking the right steps. Hopefully, after listening to all these illustrious set of people, you feel more confident than what you did before when it came to your perspective about programming and the importance of kids learning how to code. This is the right forum, and I'm glad that you all were able to join us, and extremely impressed by every kid that spoke today. If I was as smart as they were, I would have probably gone further along in my life. Y'all are on the right track. Y'all are absolutely crushing it. Please continue doing what you are. I see that people are already calling someone their role model. This is exactly the kind of impact you have. And you want to be a trailblazer, you want to lead the way and not be afraid to do things, because there is literally no cost to failure. So just keep doing new things, keep learning new things, and you'll be fine. But extremely impressed, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vinay. So be in touch. Thank you so much. So our guest want to lastly unveil our advisory board members. I'm going to just briefly read their profile. We have very notable persons who are currently piloting and giving us active insights on how we run things at KidsTech Africa. These are accomplished personalities. These are people of great caliber. So this is our first okay. On the first person I'm going to talk about is on the advisory board list. We have 4 members of our advisory board. We have Mr. Shola Jimmy Idiagbon. Mr. Shola Jimmy Idiagbon is an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, and blockchain enthusiast. Pardon me. SIJ, as his founding called, is the chairman and chief executive officer of SIJ Global, founder of Gas Source and other startups. He graduated with a major in computer science from Kwara Polytechnic, after which he proceeded for a postgraduate degree in international business management at the Malta Institute of Management. He has traveled extensively and accrued professional skills. Worthy of mention was the role he played in repositioning Intertechnica, a financial firm in Malta. He has also successfully brokered services for reputable companies, organizations, and institutions in the project management, business development, and merger and acquisition. Our dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Shola Jimmy Diago. Mr. Shola Jimmy Diago is a very brilliant personality, and we are extremely happy to have him as our member of the advisory board. The next person we are unveiling is Mrs. Fumi Adefila. Mrs. Osiegbu Fumi Adefila is a mother, educationist, entrepreneur, public speaker, author, a graduate of Ahmadu Bello University's area and member of Enterprise Development Center, EDC. She's a founder of Bondis Care Support Initiative that advocates for the support of mental health capacity building for women and preservation of the environment and community development. We want to appreciate Mrs. Fumi Adefila for all her support and insight about KidsTech Africa. We are so glad to have these great people on board to help push the what we do at KidsTech Africa. So the next person, our advisory board member, is Mrs. Halima Dambata. Ajia Halima Zubeiru Dambata is a chartered marketer from Kano State, Nigeria. She's an entrepreneur, a creative director at Malibu Beats and Fine Jewelry. She's CEO, Halros Paints and Chemicals. She's also the sitting president, Women Entrepreneurs Forum. So we are so excited and we are really happy to have these brilliant people on board as our advisory board members. Next is Mr. Friday Nwokolo. He has a Master's of Arts degree in English Science with special interest in social linguistics, an aspect of linguistics that looks at language and society. He has experience in various sectors of art, finance, NGO management, and education. He has worked as a credit officer, team lead, branch manager, area manager, divisional head, product manager in major Nigerian banks. He has also worked as project manager for implementation of various innovative projects. And one of these projects was an innovation grant of $2 million US, while the other was worth $500, which are stuffs that are targeted at community development, the poor. His strength lies in bringing the best out of team members with the understanding that together we can, and that's the idea that has been behind KidsTech Africa. We have lots of members, our team, that have always been working day in and night to make things possible. So this is Mr. Friday Nwokolo. We want to really appreciate these great people and thank them for all their support for KidsTech Africa. It's been extremely great, like, to have these wonderful personalities with us that have been making things work for us as an organization. I also want to talk about our team lead, Mr. Dumoye Ayobami. Mr. Dumoye Ayobami is extremely great. He has been a very great personality, and we love him, and we really want to wish him the best because he has been so supportive to the brand as well. So you can check on our team's page at on our website, KidsTech, www.kidstech.africa. This is the our website. So we have our team's page on that particular page. Pardon me, please. Okay, so that's on our team's page. So the KidsTech Africa team, we have a whole lot of things that we're actually pushing in place in the next coming weeks and the next coming months. Our goal is to develop the African continent, to transform the African continent from consumers of technology to producers. And this is our team's page. These are the great minds that are really doing the deal at KidsTech Africa. So this okay, on the team's page as well is our advisory board members. These are the great people that are making things work at KidsTech Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I want Mr. Jimmy Diago to do the final remarks so that we bring the webinar to a close.
Thank you, everyone, for taking time to be part of this webinar. I mean, it's been a joyful moment. One, we hope to see more of this coming up in the next month. Because, yeah, just so to encourage everyone again, one thing that gives us joy, parents, seeing do well. We've seen examples of a couple of them online today. So impressed with the last speaker. I can't remember the name. He said kind of solution, a management solution for the school to be able to manage their data and everything
Okay, that's Miriam.
Yeah, Miriam. So I to keep in touch with her. I want to encourage her with one or two things as well. And the blockchain aspect of it, Rising has been in the blockchain space since 3 years now. I made it a compulsory task for him to make sure it's part of that. He's just mentioned a couple of things he's working on, which I'm also guiding him through the process. We are talking to a couple of VCs in the US, in Hong Kong, and also in Europe to be the major frontier and the founder of that project. So, I mean, it's a very interesting moment that we are all in right now, and we need to encourage these kids so that they can do better and also be a source of relief to us. They can make things to work for this world if we allow them, even though we still have to guide them through the right process. So, I mean, I appreciate everyone and thank you for also having me on board. I hope that we'll make this a successful project for Africa and for the rest of the world. God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining. Till some other time, from me, Ishola Kayode, and the entire KidsTech Africa team, we're signing off, and thank you. Enjoy your evening, and is it afternoon or wherever else, because we have different persons joining us. Okay, thank you.
That's my sir.